Thank you very much for the invitation. Indeed, my story is a little bit new because 2 months ago I was totally in a different life, I can say. Just for let you know about my background, I study in law in Brussels, in Belgium, and then I worked for 7 years in the public sector, and I worked for the foreign affairs in Tokyo, Geneva, New York, and I came back in Brussels for the Belgian presidency. It's been 2 years that I am back. And when I was back here in Belgium, in Brussels, I have a little sister, and I'm in charge of her, and she went out all the time, you know, on the Saturday night, and I was very worried about how she will be back at home, and I gave her 20 euros just to take a cab, a taxi, but finally she spent all the money and she came for her drinks and drinks for her friends, and then she came back at the middle of the night by food. So I was wondering, how can I be sure that she's coming back at home safe and with someone I trust? So I was thinking about that and about all the mobility, the taxi stuff here in Brussels. And I wanted to do something. So I looked on the internet and I found an event called Startup Weekend Brussels. Yesterday, Eric Schmidt talked about the Startup Weekend principles and initiatives. And in end of October, 21st of October, I went there with my ID. I present my ID, and during 54 hours, with a team of 9 people, we create a simulation of this company with the marketing, the finance, the strategy, the communication. And on Sunday, we won the first prize of the Startup Weekend Brussels. So all the experts, the jury who was there, were very positive about the new niche of clients that we could reach via this project, I Trust My Driver. Just to explain you a little bit what's the principle, it's the creation of a platform, a website platform, where, for example, parents can find a safe driver, certified driver, I Trust My Driver, and via this platform, the parent will receive the contact details of the driver, the photo, the picture, the phone number, the cell phone. He can prepare the course, so the parents is sure that the money is not spending for something else. You can also have all tracking, the quotation, a code. So I have a lot of ideas about this application. But for the moment, we are testing this project on a beta project, as you told us. This is better. So I won the project on the Sunday evening, and I quit my job on Monday. So this is a little bit... I don't know if it's crazy or not, but I think this kind of opportunity you don't have every day, and it's not in 6 months like I can come back with my project. You know, do you remember I had my project, I Trust My Driver? No. So I decided to do it, but as an expert in law, I'm not an expert, as I told you, in accountability, in finance, in IT. So this is very complicated sometimes to build a startup, and I'm very interesting to meet people, to have contacts, and for me it's very, very great to meet you, to have more information, because sometimes you have so many things to do and so many challenges that it's very complicated to know how to start and where to start. So my first questions will be, now that I know that there is a new niche of clients that I would like to reach via I Trust My Driver, the parents and the teenager, I would be to create a new trend, a new tendance, that it's so cool to have your driver by night, on Saturday night, on the Wednesday afternoon. So what could be the best strategy to target this new niche of clients via the web and via the mobile applications and all this stuff?
That's a great story, by the way.
Thank you.
Finding something on Sunday and quitting the job on Monday doing startup, that takes a lot of courage. So first of all, congratulations to you for that.
6 months.
Especially in European context. I think it raises one interesting question is, when you have an idea only, like what are your baby steps to start a business? Because typically you would be extremely unsure like what to do. As you mentioned, you threw some words that you find not that familiar to you, like accounting and counseling and legal and so on and so on. Now, there are two things, of course, Good news and bad news. Good news first. So the good news is that by now, the process of building a startup out of an idea has been serialized. So it's not rocket science. It's actually a pretty straightforward process. And it's extremely well developed in Silicon Valley, where kids of year 12 already know, at least with baby steps what you need to do. And this is not, again, secret. So first, typically thing you do, you build a PowerPoint investor presentation. The modern way of doing startups is not really wasting your time with trying to bootstrap your company, because that's slow, extremely slow. So typically what you would do is you build 10 pages PowerPoint presentation, just the one which I assume you used for your weekend startup, that says basically, I want to do this and this, and I need, say, realistically, to start a business in Europe, you may easily ask for between 100 to 500,000 euro. This kind of money is available to you without any strings. You don't have to mortgage your house. You don't have to take a lot of personal, say, responsibility. So that kind of money you can relatively easily get from a lot of angels, investors, seed funds, venture funds, and so on in European context. In the US, it's even more. So your first baby step is get funded. Because only when you are funded, this is where you can actually start hiring professionals. And starting your company with professionals in the first instance is a pretty big guarantee against a failure. Because the opposite way would be hiring your buddies, friends, university, and stuff. So when you end up a company of 5 friends, none of whom is professional, then the chance of failure is relatively high. So investor presentation first. Then Americans call it the Sand Hill Road Tour, meaning that there is one place in Silicon Valley in Palo Alto called Sand Hill Road. And sometimes they joke that 80% of NASDAQ value has originated from venture capital on that road. So this area of approximately 1 square kilometer where you would find like a couple of hundred venture capital firms. And again, the reality is be prepared that initially nobody will believe in your idea at all. So the first conversation you will say is, they say, nuts, save drivers, what a joke. Just forget that. So empirically, again, based on my experience, based on my discussions with our startups, it will take you approximately 30 visits to investors to get the one that is willing to fund you. Now, the good news is after every visit, you take some lessons, because they will say, well, that concept will fail because, and you write down the because. You go back home, you think about that because. You may either find arguments why it's not true, and then for the next conversation you prepare those arguments, or you may find out that, wow, that's really a big because. So maybe I should forget my business because that's like, trying to invent something which is uninventable and so on. So reality is after having done, say, 20, 30 of those trips, you either polish, crystallize your concept, your business, your presentation sufficient to get funded, or you find out that because of all the arguments, you stop believing in it yourself, because you discover some things that would stop your business from occurring, which you may not necessarily learn about. So the one Silicon Valley important principle, don't waste a first effort until you sold the idea to investor and got funded. Because 2 things happen. One, investors are professionals. They screen hundreds and thousands of different ideas. They have a knowledge of history of thousands of companies and so on. So by virtue of selling idea to investor, upfront, the chance of that idea is really high because a professional believed in your idea, and that tells a lot. Second, it comes with another 2 things. Because money, this 100 or 200,000 euro that you need, is half of the story. It's enough to hire yourself a professional programmer, a professional coder, enough to create a team of maybe 5 people running next 6 months. But what's most valuable is that you get what they call typically added value. Means baby holding, hand holding. Because investors, early stage investors, angel, seed, early venture capital, never comes with money and that's it. It always comes with advice. Advice with how do you build your strategy, how do you hire people, maybe introducing you to people who got hired and so on. So that part, actually you want even more than money because you have mentor who is extremely professional in the area by virtue of investing. who is well connected in the world, who's seen how other companies succeed or fail. What's more important to you, he has his skin in your game. So unlike, say, just advisors, he's highly motivated to really help you. So that would be the first step. After you've done so, I'm pretty sure that advisor will tell you what are the other baby steps are.
Thank you. Thank you
You're
very
welcome.
much.
Ilya, can I ask your experience? You said empirically you need to go to see 30 venture capitalists and they turn you down and say your idea is bad. And I remember Einstein saying an idea which sounds good at first is not a good idea. But how do you prepare yourself that you are strong enough to overcome all these criticism and the negative replies?
Yes, so that's actually the difficult part. Oh, is it your phone? Phone down? Yeah. Yes. So reality is, I think that the whole concept of idea, one good, great idea is all you need to succeed, is massively overrated, at least in European environment. People, want to believe Cinderella stories, right? I just sleep, and then I have the idea, and then next morning I'm a billionaire. That's like a very, very common belief if you talk to people. Reality is hard. I would say unless you have tried 10 different times, the chance that one idea succeeds is almost zero. That's a strong statement.
You mentioned Angry Birds. What is the story of Angry Birds, for example?
Yeah, well, again, I'm having actually pretty often those discussions because one of my, parts of social activity is I trying to bring back this whole entrepreneurship spirit, culture, know-how, awareness back to Lithuania, where I believe it's lacking a lot. So coming to your Angry Birds, very often, when I say, look, you have to commit giving 3 years of your life to trying out different concepts, chances that your first idea succeeds is almost zero. Almost zero. Again, without offense to anybody who's trying that. On the other hand, if you, in 3 years, if you test 10 different concepts, you develop enough experience so that your 10th idea actually has more than 50% of chance to become really big. So that's the flip side. But again, at this moment, typically a lot of students say, how about guys like Angry Birds? Because Angry Birds, typically, actually, who does know the game Angry Birds here in the audience?
Who does know?
Yeah, who knows?
Who knows?
Okay, at least half. Yeah. So
we don't ask who likes it, it's just who knows.
Yeah,
it.
at least who heard of them.
Yeah.
So, and typically at this moment, I receive a lot of comments saying, okay, how about guys like Angry Birds? Because typically it is perceived as an overnight success because it's a massive, phenomenal game success. Phenomenal. It's the most popular game that ever humankind being had created. And right now, in 3 years, it became a more than $1 billion company, and it moved into merchandising. It's creating a phenomena similar to what Mickey Mouse created some years ago and so on. But anyway, so I know the guys apparently very well. Partially because they are just located across the sea from me, and this is, Scandinavia is a small community. Partially, I've hung around with the guys for the last 5 years. The reality is that company did 51 games before they did Angry Birds in the last 10 years. Twice, the company went through almost a bankruptcy. It has had a lot of negative experience. It took them 10 years to come up with something as Angry Birds. And contrary to the common belief, Angry Birds has not been an accidental success at all. They crafted every single part of the game extremely carefully based on mathematical formulas. They tried to analyze which category you have to belong to, what specific gameplay hooks, what takes the user from the first screen to the next screen, and so on. So it's been mathematically designed based on the experience and the analysis that they did in the industry for 10 years. And that's by far not a chance. That's a result of 10 years of trying. And if you look just, around you, successes like Facebook, again, people want to believe Cinderella stories, want to believe this is overnight success. If you dig enough, in all those stories, from Google to Facebook to Twitter to, any success, you will find that there have been years and years of experimentation and failure before those stuff. So conclusion is, idea itself is almost nothing. Execution is key. It takes 3 years to build something meaningful, and courage is what you have to have all the way. Otherwise, you just drop and then you wasted all of your time that you invested today.
Yeah. Very clear, very clear. But having sensed the energy level of Valérie, I have no doubt that you will will go this way.
Well, again, a funny observation, typically it's believed that you invest into a specific idea, typically. In reality, professional serial entrepreneurs know you're not investing into a specific idea. You're investing into an entrepreneurial career. So typically the mindset, which I think is stable, which will help you survive all those stuff, you're not saying to yourself, look, I got this idea, and that idea will make me successful. Typically what you're saying to yourself is, I want to be entrepreneur, because that means freedom, that means ability to change the world, that means financial reward, and so on. So I know I will be entrepreneur. I'm investing my life, my effort into that, and that idea is my first trial on that path. That's the right mindset.
Very clear. We have one question here short question. Do we have a micro? Or speak up loud? Or no, maybe we get the micro here. Yeah. And then we continue with Christopher. Here, please. Thank you.
Thank you. If I understood correctly, you said you have to test your idea with at least 30 investors before moving on. So my question is, how elaborated has it to be to get to the investors? Because as I see it, you won't be admitted into an interview with an investor unless you have some kind of, let's say, business plan, which is, one of the, I would say, obstacles and at the same time requirements for presenting an idea to an investor. I mean, can you just go there and talk with an investor on an elevator pitch just like that, or you need something else?
Yeah, that's a great question. Great question. And first of all, at the verge of being not understood, I will say forget the World Business Plan itself. I think it's a European bureaucratic invention that makes any potential entrepreneur be afraid of the whole process.
Can you say that again, Ilya? Can you say
forget
it
again?
The word business plan. That's what you're saying.
Plan. Because, precisely. Because that sounds very complicated, because the association it immediately raises is, well, I have to do my financial calculations, come up with a 20-page spreadsheet of my projections of revenue, and so on and so on. And this is actually very difficult to do. And I would say that as an entrepreneur, just forget that. Life and getting investors is way simpler than this. Way simpler than this. So the word I'm typically using is I call the 10-page investor presentation. And that means you put just your thoughts on 10 pages of PowerPoint. Again, forget financial calculations, forget anything. Just explain your idea in plain, simple words. I want to do a safe driving company to my customers, period. That's my investor pitch. That's not a business plan. So professional investors who specialize in early seed know very well that entrepreneurs are unprepared to do complicated business plans. So you don't need that. And the joke that I was making earlier this year is last round we closed with Tiger Global Management. Awesome company to work with. We raised $25 million in funding. My investor presentation paperwork to them was less complicated than a paperwork I was asked by my landlord to get an apartment in California to live because I was not US resident.
Okay, I think we continue the discussion afterwards. But this was a very important point, but it's time to move.
Yeah, I just wanted to add 1 second part.
Yes.
How do you get to those investors? Because do you cold call them? Do you just send emails?
Yeah.
So the most efficient strategy is build your visibility in the startup space. Participate in conferences like this. There is a dozen of startup conferences in Europe. There are a couple of dozen in Silicon Valley. The most famous in Europe this year was Slush in Helsinki, 100 entrepreneurs. Visit those, present your cases, run those PowerPoint presentations. All those conferences are being watched by investors. So inevitably, after each presentation, you will meet maybe 3, 4, 5 guys, and then talk to them, build your awareness. In 1 year, you will have a couple of dozen of contacts to call, and you will have access to those 30 investors that you need. So that's the most efficient way to get investors.
Super clear. Sounds easy.
It is. It is very easy.
Oh, very good. Christoph, from Camineo, what have you done with this travel companion?